Earlier last year, I spent a week making my first horror game, and it's bad. It was so basic, you just had to collect and use items while this guy tries to get to you. There's no story, no interesting mechanics, just a super basic horror game. So today, I will be challenging myself to make a horror game that is hopefully better in only 3 days. I'll be joining the mini jam to make this game, and there is only one rule. The game must contain a frog. Okay, so a horror game where a frog hunts you down. And unlike before, this game is going to be 2D and story based. Kinda similar to Undertale but a side scroller. So I was experimenting with the art, just trying out new color palettes and eventually settled on this. This will be the player who is a little kid alone in his house, so I had to make sure all the furniture was much bigger than him. Anyway, I slapped all of that into the game, and now he kinda just drifts left and right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure people move their legs around to walk. So I went ahead and animated him, and now the game looks a lot better. And then I placed a couple bits of furniture in with our character, and now it's starting to feel like a proper house. Now, since this is a story-based game, we need a simple way to communicate to the player, so taking a lot more inspiration from Undertale, I decided to make a dialogue system just like it. Now, there is a plugin that'll do all of that for me, with a very good amount of features that would be very helpful and a big time saver if I were to make one myself, but if I do that, I have nothing to brag about. And so I spent a whole day making as much of a flexible dialogue system as I could, which I can use for special events and of course, cutscenes. Though dialogue systems seem like a small and simple thing to make, when you try to make one alone, you may find yourself falling into insanity. So I just started to truly appreciate them even more. Or maybe I'm just stupid. But now we have a dialogue system with no way to use it. So that's why I came up with the interaction system. You know, the thing that allows you to use a thing when you're near it, or just make your character say something. And it was a lot easier to code in comparison, and I was able to link it up with the dialogue system. But now if you go up to a window and use it, the player will talk about how it was raining the whole day. But the system could do things other than just calling dialogue. You can also open doors and go to other rooms, except we don't have any other rooms, but I will get back to that later. Then I figured it would be fun to add some sound effects pretty early, so I did a couple like the door, muffled raining sound, footsteps, and a sound for talking. But oh boy, the game just feels so much more atmospheric with these changes. Now back to the lack of rooms problem. The doors will work, but doors aren't the only way to enter the rooms. Like, you could probably walk from the living room to the kitchen without having to go through a door. So I made these pathways, which do look a bit weird, but these things will seamlessly teleport. They will seamlessly teleport you to the other linked pathway. And to properly show this, I added another room. And when using them, the camera must teleport over to the other room, because the rooms are just next to each other but not exactly connected. But the players don't have to know that. But now let's get to some of the story parts of the game. So the game starts with you, the player, coming home from school after a rainy and gloomy afternoon. So to make sure the kid looks like he just came from school, I just made a separate sprite sheet for the player which is the exact same except he has a backpack. And then added a little rack, if you could call it that. You can leave your bag and shoes in there. Then you get the normal backpackless sprite. Just a little thing to give the world a little more life. And then I made the second room the living room. And don't ask why the couches are next to the TV. I get that it's horrible placement, but I can't really do anything about it, so it's gonna stay. And I plan to have a kitchen on the other side, and the door should lead to the other rooms. But for now, I'm just going to furnish the kitchen real quick. And now that that's done, time to make another story thing. There's a note left on the fridge, and you read it to find out that your mom has gone out but left you a bit of food. Jam sandwiches to be precise. Referencing the fact that this is a game jam entry, and also that I personally really love jam sandwiches. But back to the important stuff. She left the pack of food on the counter, which you can go and pick up. For quicker testing, I increased the player's movement speed, so don't mind that. Your character says he wants to eat this in the bedroom and that he wants to take a nap. So you go to the bedroom filled with references to some of my other games. take one big bite out of that sandwich, then lie in bed as the screen fades away. Okay, but before we continue, everything I discuss from this point contains spoilers. So if you want to enjoy all the surprises yourself, you can go and play the game and come back. If not, feel free to keep watching. As you sleep, you are awakened by a loud croak. You are very much confused about what made that noise, but only moments later, you hear the doorbells ring. You assume it's just your parents, but as you know, it's a horror game, and it's never this simple. Being an innocent and oblivious child, you walk over to the door, and then the game freezes because I didn't finish the cutscene. Turns out cutscenes do take quite a lot of work, and this is my first time tackling them. All the cutscenes I've ended up making in this game were all hard-coded. And using something like the animation player could have been a better option, but I don't know. I've already done it and it worked quite well so far, so might as well keep doing it. Anyway, back to the door opening bit. This is the first time you encounter the frog. And I had to make a texture for the frog to look at when you look through it. Oh, and did I mention that it's abnormally big? There is a lore reason why, which I will get into later. Now I made the cutscene, and the texture behind the door is supposed to change from black to the frog. But I did something wrong and ended up making our character schizophrenic. But after fixing that, this is what the cutscene looks like. I had to make the character jump. While it looks really goofy, he doesn't show any emotion in any other way, so... Anyway, after you've been greeted by our fellow frog, you begin to question why that frog was so big and how on earth was it able to ring the doorbell. You decide the most responsible thing is to call an adult. You call your dad. While you're trying your best to explain the situation, your dad thinks it's not really a big deal, but tells you to stay in your room until he comes home from work anyway. And so you go into the second encounter, making a couple more animations and packaging it all into one cutscene. We got this. Now it seems like the frog is kind of violent. And if you try to go back to your bedroom again, your character will refuse. And he doesn't seem to like looking through windows anymore. And now it's time for the third encounter. You don't know where to go to be safe at this point, so wandering around you may end up in the kitchen again, where if you go far enough, you'll get a familiar message from something. Right as you wonder why it was familiar, once again, another attempt at the frog trying to catch you, but this encounter seems to suggest that this is no ordinary frog, if the size alone wasn't enough to prove that. Now you do not want to go back to the kitchen either, so there's only one option left. Back to the entrance. You go to find the front door open, and then you hear something. The frog appears right behind you, the door shuts by itself somehow, and now you are cornered. You attempt to open the door, but it's shut tight. Hopelessly, you walk to the end of the room, and then... But yeah, if you want some explanation on the frog and what it actually is, I will explain. This creature is supposed to be some sort of mimic that can imitate anything, except there's one glaring issue. Frogs are not that big. The thing is that it can imitate and shapeshift into anything, but it always gets some detail wrong. The size in this matter. And why a frog? Your character seems to really like frogs. And if you look in his room, you'll find what is supposed to be a drawing of a frog. So in trying to hunt you down, it turned into something that your character likes. And man, that animation where the frog opens up took over an hour to put together. But I'm very satisfied with the result. But I'm not gonna explain every little detail in the game, but feel free to come up with theories yourself. And now that I'm actually finished with the story, I'm gonna make a little main menu. And even made some simple music just for the menu. And it is ready to be published. I finally submitted the game and I got some really positive feedback, and I almost won the game jam, just hitting second place. I did make an update after the jam ended, and I added sprinting because people did complain that the walking speed was just too slow, and also added some shameless self-promotion. Might as well subscribe to the channel and even join the Discord server for early news on my next projects. And while you're at it, why not check out how I made that dumpster fire of a horror game in 7 days. Anyway, thanks for watching.